Hey everybody, it's Steve, and today I'm going to be doing the Dragon Team review. And I've been waiting to do this one because the Dragon cards are fun, but I also understand a lot of you might not be able to afford the Dragon Team because they are very expensive. And for me, they were really, really expensive also in alpha and beta. But I spent that money and then I made sure when the new set came out to buy them while they were still cheap because I knew they'd be going up a lot. And, thank you for everybody that's tuning in for the Splinterlands videos. Obviously, the life one wasn't my best because it's not getting a lot of views or that team just isn't loved. The death team is doing pretty well. Fire did well. Water really did well, which I understand because magic is great. And earth, who's probably one of the best teams, they have the most views so far of the different guides. Given the older videos have had more time, so we'll see what life and death do over in the future. But today we're going to be getting into dragons. And what you need to know about dragons is they are powerful, but also need a good teammate. And for some reason, at times, there's just this dry spell where you're not allowed to use them. Maybe that's on purpose. Maybe that's just something that seems to happen when I'm playing the game. So as you know, I always like to first talk about the summoners. And the first thing you're going to notice here is these summoners are pretty expensive. Unless you're looking into getting the commoner summoner, who while he gives +1 magic, and that's a pretty good ability, he is expensive at 5 mana. And for only +1 mana, when you compare him to some of the other 5 mana summoners, he's definitely not as good as the legendaries in the beta set. But he is only a common one, so it's a little bit different. But it's still usable if you have the other dragon cards at higher levels. So if this is one of the cheaper ways to get access to the team, it's not that bad. Now the dragons are so strong and so special that you can still even go after this card here. Now one of the interesting things about him is he's an epic summoner. One of the things we don't always talk about is how epic summoners get kind of a level boost in certain leagues. Now you'll have to go to the leagues to check this out, so I'm going to open this in another tab here, the battle, and we're going to jump over there so I can explain. Oh, that didn't work well, sorry. We're just going to bring it up really quick. I shoot these videos live, one take. I'm thinking about starting to write them out and do scripts and stuff, but I have to learn how to kind of read that and set that all up to be able to do it. And then we'll see if that helps my videos, maybe take it to that next level. Maybe let me know if you think that's needed. But if you look at the leagues here, so at silver, you can use an epic who's level 3. Now we have to go back to the summoners to kind of show you that when you go into one of these cards and you go into the stats at level 3, a level 3 summoner who's epic can do a level 4 rare. I think I'm doing the right comparison here. Whereas if you go back to a rare dragon summoner who is for sale, and their stats, and you look at them at level 3, they can only summon rares that are level 3, not level 4. So you see, you get that kind of an advantage in certain. Now given you can get them to level 4, and then they're the same, but a level 3 epic is the same. So it's just one of those things I wanted to point out, that while he doesn't give any kind of stat boost, that he might still help you win in the lower leagues if you get him to say level 3, because you're going to be able to summon some pretty powerful rare cards and some rare dragons when we get into the monsters. Now, obviously, this card right here is kind of an in-between when you look at them. They all are really kind of comparable in price, though. This one is pretty good at 4, and it gives +1 armor to the team. And it does give you access to the dragons. So these 3 summoners are still where a more budget-friendly person could get access to the dragon team. But obviously now we're going to talk about the ones that are stronger and better to use. Now, the one that grants flight to everyone, I'm going to kind of ignore. This is important if you're a competitive player, because in earthquake mode, this allows you to play some teams that you would never be able to play in any other mode. So that's why it's an important summoner. You can surprise somebody a whole lot and just shock them, but then they're not going to know that you're, they're just not going to expect you to have those monsters on the board in earthquake mode. But if you just want to just use the regular dragons that fly, you'll still be pretty competitive. You just might get beat by this guy every once in a while. Now, one of the best bargains that I see left in the dragon summoners is Daria, +1 strength to a team that has some really, really, really interesting attackers who have strength. I mean, they have a 2-cost opportunity card that's pretty expensive. We'll touch on it, but it's 2-cost 3 attack. With Daria, it's a 2-cost 4 attack card for a 6 mana combo where your summoner is also buffing everybody else. That's like an amazing play. And at only $39 per card, this one is looking like it's the best deal as far as having one that can let you set up a pretty competitive team. Now, that 1 extra mana is going to hurt you in the lower mana matches for sure, but you're not usually looking to play dragons in lower mana matches, at least not with the actual dragon cards. It's kind of an interesting thing, though. The one summoner that breaks that rule is the one we'll talk about next, and she was the original star of the show, and that's Selenia Sky. Selenia Sky ruled the game in the days of alpha and beta. This +1 to ranged was just ridiculous, and she's still very, very powerful and still very, very useful. But she's definitely had a little bit of her allure taken away when Camille came out, because that gives you a much cheaper 3-cost summoner that still allows you to play dragons in the lower matches. And the -1 attack it's not terrible. It's not great. I've kind of touched on this when I did the death thing for Zintar. In the lower leagues, it's really powerful because when you can limit the other team's few 2 melee attackers down to 1 in the right setups, that's just going to be really ridiculous. And she allows you to team that ability up with more tanks who have shield, and that's a really good combo in the lower leagues. You throw her on the fire team, and then you throw out a living lava who has a shield in the bronze or the silver, and all of a sudden you're going to have all these monsters that can't even hurt him if they're running melee on the other side. And then you can back the fire team up with some of the other dragon cards, and we'll get into some of those. Also, something to note here, this one, and this one are going to be playable in the future Chaos Legion set release in the new modern format game that's coming out. Now, that's been a little bit delayed as Splinterlands has decided to take a break from development to be able to handle the influx of new players. Now, we all know that, so this could mean that beta and alpha cards will have a little bit more time in the sun where they're ruling the leaderboard, and should help their value hold up a little bit better. Now, eventually, when Chaos Legion comes out, you could see some of the alpha and beta cards get a little bit cheaper, as people will have options to just go ahead and spend their money on the new set, play in the new series, and still win lots of rewards and compete for lots of rewards. Now, this one here, the +1 speed summoner, we don't really need to talk about him too much. You're not really going to pick him up. +1 speed for 4 is not really competitive very often, and he's extra expensive because he's a promo card. Unless you're a serious collector or someone who wants to have them all, this is a card that I think you can overall just skip. I almost never see him in battle. The few times I do, I win. So now we'll touch on the 2 kings of this. Now, Prince Julian, you're probably not going to buy. There just aren't that many for sale. I mean, this might be the only one. Yeah, so if you want to spend $6,000, you can have the only one that's for sale. He was a promo card. A special card was very hard to get. You had to get him by buying this potion they used to have that gave you a random card each day and be the super lucky person to get it. I bought a ton of those potions. I never got one. I never got any of the special cards from the potion things. And when I think about all the dark energy crystals I burned into that when this game was early on, it makes me want to cry a little with current value, but that's okay. Now, Biz and Kitty is amazing. If you want to be a competitive player in the next set, even in the next set, you're going to just have to fork out the cash for a Biz and Kitty. And you might want to do it sooner than later because there's just not that many left. Now, there are a plethora of untamed packs out there that haven't been opened yet. I'm sitting on 300 of them. I bought at before, I bought them early on and was planning to try to build up to 1,000, and then the pack sales went crazy and I couldn't keep up. I was like, I'll buy 100 every 2 weeks, and we were still had, I think, like 200,000 packs left, and I only got 300. So you see how that went. But the Biz and Kitties are gonna pop back up at times because people, when they get into those packs and get opening them, Biz and Kitties now going to be inside them. And it wasn't inside them until the last airdrop, so there's just not that many that were out there and given out. So it was kind of an interesting thing. As you can see, there's just not a lot for sale, but I don't expect this card to get much cheaper. And since it's an untamed summoner who's very, very strong, all the 7 costs are really going to have to be on your team if you want to compete in the champion leagues of the next new series that's going to have the Untamed card, Dice card, and Chaos Legion. Now, if you're not planning on competing in those upper leagues, then you're not going to spend the money on Biz and Kitty. You're not really going to want to go all the way and get like a level 1. You could rent a level 1 to have some fun. The +2 speed, True Strike, and healing is awesome. You can use slower characters. They're sped up a little bit, but more than excitingly than that, a 1 speed is now a 3, but he doesn't miss. Will never miss. There's some very frustrating good cards with 1 speed that you can't normally use because they miss a lot. And I know we're already at 10 minutes and we just talked about the summoners, but the dragon summoners do have a lot. So in recap, my best bundle-ish summoners are these two here because they can be played in the new set. If you're more not really worried about that and you want one that can handle higher mana matches and put a really strong team on the board, you're going to go for the common one. And then the ones that you're really going to be looking to purchase for the going forward are Camille and Kitty if you're going to be looking forward into the next set. If you want to compete in the all cards allowed set, then you can get a Selena Sky. Actually, the beta version is kind of not crazy expensive, but still going to cost you a lot. You do have to just look at the current value of the cards. And then the bargain one for the I can play in every set obviously is Daria. All of them really give you access to a lot of different cards. And now I'm going to talk to you about something that I think is important in the summoner set, so we're not going away from them yet, and that's what teams are good with each summoner. Right, because you're going to have some different teams and different summoners that increase different teams and make them better. So let me explain my thought process and how I tend to use them. Now, we'll start with Selena Sky because she is the obvious one. She works great with Life and Earth. They have really good archers. Life has that sniper team set up where they can play 3 snipers and then a 4th or 5th sniper with neutral cards. And so Selena Sky, instead of giving them armor or life, she gives all of those archers 1 more attack. And then you got snipers who are hitting even harder. So she fits into that team. The Earth team is kind of similar, but it's a little bit of a smaller sniper team. But they also have some really excellent regular just ranged attackers for the front row, and we kind of talked over them. There's the Micah Headhunter, there's the old rewards card, the Javelin Thrower, there's just the 2 trees that hit. One is the epic and the rare, the living earth elemental or something. I'm sorry, I should really have these all remembered, but I'm a little tired right now. But they all can get the +1 extra attack, and that can make that team a lot stronger. And they don't have an offensive buff for their team. Neither of those teams do. So when you give them an offensive buff, those cards are naturally now outside of their normal kind of fair play mechanic when it comes to their attack. Yeah, sure, their life might be a little low on the Earth team because they're built to maybe have a life boost, and the same thing can be said for the life team because they are supposed to have an armor or more life, so they're supposed to be not quite that squishy, so they might be a little bit squishier. But some of the great things about those teams is that they have summoners. I mean, they have cards that do those abilities, give themselves life or give themselves armor, so you can kind of very easily get over that with her. Now, when we talk about Kitty, obviously you're looking at teams with speed. So she really combos pretty well with fire. And she also can fire pretty well, I think, with water. Water has some speed and people don't always realize it. But they have like the 10-cost summoner with 6 speed. They have the ruler of the sea who has 6 speed, who has a fast speed but also gives more speed. You've got the little 2-cost guy with 6 base speed. You start having cards on the board with like 9-10 speed when you go with fire and water and Kitty, and even 11 or 12 speed sometimes. I mean, it gets really ridiculous, and it gets really hard for the other team to hit you if they didn't go Kitty. And one of the things that when you play Kitty, if you end up playing another Kitty, you're sure glad you did it because you can't miss those high speed monsters. You take that out of the board with True Strike. Also, we're going to see more of these monsters that have high speed and mana can miss them in the next set. I believe that's going to be something that's a lot more prevalent, and so having the True Strike is going to be much more important. That's why I said if you really want to compete, you need to get in Kitty. Now, for the -1 attack, because that affects the other team, this one is an all-around card that you can play on any team at all. It's an interesting one to combo with Death just because they have a summoner that does that, so that team was kind of built with this in mind. So it works pretty well, but it also works well with the Earth team, and it does also work well with the Life team. These ones all work pretty well. It doesn't work as well with the Fire team, who is built, I think, to be fast and attack. They're not worried about, kind of being defenders and weakeners of of things. So that would probably be like one of the weaker teams to use her on normally. I did mention in the lower leagues you can do it with the fire elemental just to get that, or the living lava, just to get that one attack against a shield, and then they can't hurt you. But other than that, when you get into the upper leagues and you're not really using those cards as much, it doesn't pair as well. But it is a jack of all trades. It can be built to use and access any team. Now, Daria is not. Daria needs to have attackers. So think obviously the fire team, they have a summoner that gives +1 attack. So they're built to do that. So then the next teams that I think are pretty good are, say, like not as much the water team, but throw it in the earth, life, or death teams, and specifically in my mind the death team, because they have cards like their 1-cost maxed little guy that gives life and inspire to them, and then they have they have the really good unicorn, so they can go a big tank with the undead unicorn in the second position, who are 2 big melee monsters, and the Daria makes them both stronger. They also have a 3-cost little opportunity monster that you can combo with the dragons on the dragon team to do a 3 opportunity lineup. They also have just a couple other pretty good sneak monsters and like double attack monsters in the dragon team that can be pulled out in certain situations. So the death team, I think Daria goes with pretty well, and also the earth team, because they have some big meaty summoners. They have some good cards that attack. They have the vulture. They have the same thing as an opportunity monster that can combo with them. They have a couple different sneak monsters. Well, just the one in the new set, but it is an interesting sneak monster to give an extra attack to. They also have Brownie that gives an extra attack, so you can double up the extra attacks in that case, and you're giving 2 extras. And then the life team has some interesting summoners with Inspire, so you can get the double thing, and you can do the sneak lineup with them. With Daria on the life team, in the life video, I gave an example of the sneak team, and I showed you that it was pretty powerful. And if you give them each one more attack, it just makes them that much more powerful. That's also a lineup that Biz and Kitty works well with that I might have forgot about. Now, Dewey, I'm going to go ahead and say he works with the strong magic teams. Now, the death team is a stronger magic team than people might think. They have some very good mages, and when you give them all 1 extra attack, then they even hit harder, and 2 of their mages have a silence. So this is a very good combo to use with the death team that can make them a pretty powerful team, especially if you add in some other dragon cards to make them pretty good. He can also work with water, obviously. Not so good with fire. Fire doesn't have a lot of mages. Earth has a decent amount of mages, so you can use him with the earth lineup. It can make the healers hit a little bit harder. It can make the 2 mushroom guys do a lot better. So there's a lot of earth cards that you can fit into a Dewey deck. And obviously, you can use these summoners and as just a replacement with those teams, even if you're not going to purchase a lot of the dragon cards, just to give them a more offensive feel than a defensive feel when it comes to the earth team. When you're using these 2 summoners that give +1 or plus to magic or attack. The armor one, obviously, he can fit into the life team because they use a lot of armor. He can also actually give a nice little boost to the death team, who tends to be kind of meatier monsters because they don't have a normal boost and they don't have a normal way to get armor. So armor on death can be kind of interesting because they don't really have a way to do that normally. There's no card on the death team that gives them armor. So when they do get armor, it kind of gives some of those cards that extra hit or that extra protection, and it can make a big difference for that team. Every other team can have armor pretty much. I know water has a few cards that give armor, particularly the Castration King that a lot of people have as a healer. The life team has armor up the wazoo, and the earth team has the Spirit of the Forest that gives them all armor. The death team doesn't have a card that gives them all armor. They have to go either to this summoner or to the neutral flying monster that gives them the armor. And it's also an interesting card to use with fire, because fire already has a few monsters with armor, but it can make them have extra armor. And then it can also, they have cards on the fire team with the repair skill, but not always have tanks with a lot of armor depending on who you're using. Like Cerberus doesn't have an armor, so you can use this guy with a Cerberus. Now Cerberus has 1 armor, and now you can use the little level 1 monkey that has at max level a +1 speed and a repair, and now you're going to repair the armor on your Cerberus who's self-healing. This is kind of the combos that you can build when you're thinking this stuff out. Obviously, the one that doesn't give a buff to anyone can be used with any team, and that team is just going to be played with no buff. Really, this is only something that you're going to be looking to purchase if you get them at the right price, and because there's a lot for sale, so you can max one out at staying at this price. That's one of the things to pay attention to. This one says $5.57 per card, but I don't know if you're going to pay $5.57 to max them out. Well, actually, it looks like you can pay about $3 if you're willing to, give out the 400 right away, and it's $5.50 when you get to the single card. So that's good to know. I'm glad I came in and gave that a quick little look. All right, let's get to the monsters. Wow, we're already at 20 minutes. That's crazy. The dragon video is going to be a little bit longer, so I will try to timestamp it, and hopefully I will be able to get through most of these. They don't have as many monsters, so they're going to be kind of interesting. Shinlu, unless you want to own them all at this point, you can just skip. If you're going to spend $32,000 on a card, more power to you. Congratulations. I can't do that. I don't know a lot of people who can. Same thing with the Mighty Drucken. These are one-cost cards that really, in the super most competitive leagues and certain matches, will make the difference. And when they put them on the board, when you run into those players that have them, you go, wow, and you're jealous, and you take your loss, and hopefully you just move on. Now, this one right here, the Royal Dragon Archer, we don't really have to talk about. It is a sniper. If you got it at max level, it could be interesting to try to make some sniper teams with it. But it's a 6-cost card that isn't really that good and only would work really well with the Selena deck. And there's enough snipers already out there in the game to where you don't need this $1,000 card. The Red Dragon is a very interesting card in like the melee only message, or the matches where any monsters can attack from anywhere, everybody has opportunity, because he is a magic, self-healing, hard-hitting, but slow, so he doesn't make the best front row tank. But if he can attack from one of the other positions where he's not going to be getting hit by everybody, and then he can also deal magic damage sometimes from the back row. So like in a melee only mode, you want to play back row monsters that have either a magic or a ranged attack with them so they can actually attack. And the Dragon team is really important for that combo, so they're one of the best ones to access when you're doing melee only mode, so Monster Mayhem. Now, the two opportunity monsters are the Harpy and the Dragon Jumper. If you're going to level these up, they're great to level them up together, but the Fiendish Harpy is really, really stupid unless you get it to opportunity, and it doesn't get it to level 4. So if you're not playing in leagues where you can even get this card to level 4, completely ignore it. Once you can get it to level 4, though, it's a 2-cost 2 attack. You can just leave it there, and it's going to be a great little hunter that you can slip into opportunity lineups. And then if you're going to be super competitive, max it out, and you're going to be pretty happy with that 3 attack that I was talking about. It's one of the one cards that can actually have more attack than cost, which is very, very rare in the 2 and 3 cost cards. You only see that every once in a while. Sorry, bumped the table. Might have shook a little bit. Now, some of the dragons are all really, really good, so we'll just talk about them kind of each card and try to go through them as quick as we can. The Golden Dragon is one of the best off tanks in the game, second positions or last position. It's a self-healing dragon that eventually has magic reflect. I think, just for fun, let's look at these cards in max level. This is going to kind of drastically trade the prices, but we don't do this very often. But for the dragon set, you kind of need to see what these are going to be, because if you're heavily investing in dragons, then you're really going to be competing in the upper leagues. If you're not, then you're going to be renting level 1s, and you're just going to have them on your team because they're really big, meaty people to throw onto a board when you get a high mana match, and they will win you a lot of matches for sure. So it's definitely worth doing that. But to get an idea of how they work together, you need to see them. So see, here's the 2 opportunity monsters. Here's the self-healing return fire, self-heal magic, back row tank on a high melee only. Now, the chromatic dragon is probably the one that has been replaced a little bit by one of the newer cards. So he used to be the big melee tank with, as you can see, he was thorns, piercing, he got enraged, so he got kind of fast, high HP, hit hard. It was a flying guy who's going to end up with at least 4 speed. But then you had, why am I not seeing him? Oh, nobody must be selling a max level. So I'll go back to all levels really quick. I just wanted to show you kind of them at a little bit. He's been replaced by the Robo Dragon Knight, because the Robo Dragon Knight now, even though he's 11 cost, when you're playing dragons, it's high mana, and he has taken over as the main tank. Since no one's selling a max level, I have to show you, because he has Void and Magic Reflect while having a lot of armor and having Return Fire. So it's literally like it's the best tank I could ever imagine. It's kind of crazy because if you're coming after him with magic, he's going to half it and reflect it at you. And it doesn't take the halving into effect when it's getting reflected. So on some attacks, you do the same damage as him as he does back to your monster. Then he only has 10 health, right? But he has 8 armor. So when you get in magical armor games, boy, that's just kind of ridiculous. Then even though you could say, well, archers can beat them up, well, that's where the 8 armor comes into play and the return fire. So if you do some big archer attacks on him, you're going to run into that armor and it's going to get shot right back at you. And the more strong an archer is, usually the more gas cannon it kind of is. And so that bounce back can go ahead and hurt you. Also, since you can combine dragons with any team, you can put healers behind him. You can buff his armor more. You can put repair people behind him. So he just has become the go-to tank. And he's one of the newer cards. So he's actually a little bit cheaper at $34 when you talk about a dragon card. And so that's one to kind of think about maybe going ahead and making your main tank. The other one to make your main tank is going to be this one here. And a lot of people ignore this card, but the Gorak Soldier is an amazing tank at max level. He's a 5-cost flying card that you can still get because he's newer. He does double damage if somebody tries to throw a cube on the board, and he works really well with Daria, but even then he stands pretty well because the one thing you want to look out for him is you need to back him up with some silences behind him because a lot of mages will totally destroy him. So that's the one thing you're looking for. Either you have to protect him with silences or don't play him in a match where you think it's pretty obvious your opponent's going to be playing a lot of magic. Now, this little promo card's kind of interesting. If you actually had a maxed out Naga Brute, it'd be interesting in some of the modes to throw that in the front to just kind of be a brunt damage, or to throw it in the second position in a sniper match to be like, go ahead and sniper at my Naga Brute. You're not going to have a lot of fun doing that, but it's really cheap because that's all it's really meant to do. See, you get it here, and all of a sudden it has armor that you got to go through with Void. It has Thorns, and it has Return Fire, so it's just a really annoying card to kill, but it costs so much. That's the reason why it's kind of interesting. It's like at 6 cost, it's like, are you really going to spend that mana to put that card on the board when you could put a Black Dragon, you could put a Glorious Mage, you could put a Scale Doctor, who's still also kind of annoying back row sniper target to have to deal with, especially if you've given him armor. So I just don't know. This is why this card is so cheap, and it's one of the few cards I haven't maxed out yet because I just didn't see a need to. I might do it just to do it or get it higher level and see if I'm wrong, but we'll have to see. The Dragon Spirit, on the other hand, is only 3 cost and has 6 mana. So he's an interesting card to look at if you want that card that you can kind of pop into a game to be like, hey, look at me. You're going to have to go through me. You're going to have to snipe me. You're going to have to kill me in the first position. And at max level, you can see it sitting here going, oh, you finally killed me, even though I have 9 health and 6 speed, so you've been missing me. You can't poison me. It's hard to hit me because I'm flying and fast. And when you finally kill me, I hurt your entire team. So it's a very interesting card. Redemption is also very important to play in any game where everyone has a shield, or you think you might be playing a lot of shields, because then by the time they do pop them, they're rewarded by losing all of their shields. So that's kind of an interesting card that a lot of people kind of ignore. Some of the better attackers to add to the deck is the Fire Spitter. Now, the one thing about the Fire Spitter, it won't be used in the newer set. So I think for just a second, we're going to take the beta and promo cards out so you can kind of see the dragons that you need to be competitive in the new set of cards. Oh yeah, dice was selected. I just wanted to make sure. So see, this guy is still in. Okay, and the rewards card, I can't take them all out, but if they look like this, they're out. So you got these 3, you got these 3, you got this one, this one, this one, and this one. Now, I'm going to talk about the Vigilator. He is one of the strongest cards in the game for high mana matches. And if you can attack from the back row with him in any mode that lets you use him as an attacker from the back row, he becomes ridiculous because this is 4 chances to poison targets if he's attacking from the back row. So in an opportunity matchup, melee monsters can attack from anywhere matchup. He is just a king to have on the board, and he has thorns when people hit him. So I'm going to show you an example of how devastating this card can be in one of my battles. We're going to get to some battle reviews, and I need to get to them quickly because we're already at 30 minutes. So let's see, is there any other cards? Oh, the Diamond Dragon's going to be an important one to level up. This is one of the few cards that has a status effect that costs a lot. So it's one of the few cards that you can play in a 10 mana match and get a slow on the board, have a cleanse, and have a last stand, where if you position him right, he'll be a really ridiculous last stand monster to have to deal with. And he's usable in the new set going forward and is a little bit cheaper. So this is definitely a card worth getting. Only payable in high mana matches though, so that's something to account for. Dragon Jumper is an amazing card. He gets stun at the upper levels. He's definitely one that you need to have. He's really expensive because he can single-handedly wreck another team. At this point, the Black Dragon I think is pretty good, but he's probably a little bit cheaper because he's not going to be usable in the next set, and a lot of people underestimate this card. I use him a lot because at max level he is a slow life leeching monster, and he is has strengthen, and he's one of the great ones to use when every monster has the same amount of health, because all the life leech monsters are really important for that one. Let's see, is there anybody else? Okay, let's go ahead and look at the Gorax Guardian really quick because he's a little bit cheaper. We'll just talk about the fact that he has a protect when you max him out, and he is a shielded back tank. So you can have a shielded back tank behind a shielded tank, and then even against the Zaku archers, you both of the first two targets that are getting hit are going to have armor, and they're going to take half damage. So it's a very interesting play if you think you're trying to beat Zaku. Dragons are one of the few teams that can really dominate a Zaku deck. Now, who else is left here? Okay, now we'll go ahead and throw promo and beta back on. We'll talk about the Lightning Dragon. He's a pretty amazing card. He's a super fast attacker with splash damage and a stun. Any card with a stun can make a big difference in the game. And I already talked about the Chromatic Dragon, how he's been kind of replaced. Look, a cheaper one came on the market, I think. I thought that was more expensive. This one is really the king of the high cost, these two. But again, you're not going to be able to play them all the time, so it's an interesting card to spend a lot of money on. When you get to use them, it's going to be awesome. Same thing with the Robo Knight and the Gorax. This card is actually pretty good. It's Affliction. It's a 3-cost mage that has Affliction, and you can pop him in, and Affliction can be more important than people think. He used to be a lot better. Cleanse is a lot more known now, so it's not as important. All right, guys, I think that kind of covers everything as far as those go. Now we're just going to watch a couple battles. As you can see, I went on a nice little winning spree with the dragons. I don't think I'm going to show you every video because we're already at 31 minutes, so I want to wrap this up. But here we're going to show you this one. This one is going to really highlight kind of the combo I did here and why I did it, but it's really just to show you. See, I used her with the death team, because like I said, she combos with death. And as you can see, this is the max level lineup of somebody else that used a Selena, maybe because they only have a Selena. Because it's very interesting to use a Selena and no archers. I don't really understand that. Now, as you can see, everyone had a shield. Everyone had opportunity. Like I said, he is the king of the opportunity game, and watch what he does to the other team. It's pretty funny to watch. So he's just going to absolutely destroy that guy. So, all right, that guy's gone. So there goes your extra attack. And then I've got the shield, so the gold dragon isn't as devastating, and they're all trying to kill that chicken. It took them a while, right? Now you'll see he'll go ahead and monster another character. So now, before they've really done even much, look at how much damage I've done to their other team, especially because I was able to pay a little bit of cloud control. Now I have these only 2-cost monsters as my tank, and you're thinking, oh, well, he's going to turn this around, right? No, this guy's going to handle it. See, poisoned both of them in those attacks, killed one, weakened this one, and now he's just going to finish him off. And he still had 2 more attacks to do on that turn. So that card is just ridiculous when you get it working from the back row. So in any mode where you can attack from the back row, if you put him on the board, he costs 9. I played him in that match, and it was only a 18 mana, and he still just dominated the board. That's how powerful a monster who gets to attack 4 times can be when he's attacking from the back row. We'll go ahead and do a Bizen match to show you Bizen beating Zaku. I told you this is something that you can see happen, and we'll speed these up, and that way maybe I can show you one more before we get to the 35-minute mark of the video. All right. So as you can see, this is a pretty powerful Zaku setup. This was just a standard game. He was going a lot of snipers, and because I knew I might go against a Zaku in a 48 standard with fire available, I played double return fire here. And I didn't even play a healer, but I also played 2 big mages that would be very, very fast because I knew that fire tends to not handle mages as well. And then I had my 1 opportunity monster to make sure that I was hunting for those opportunity monsters. All right, let's speed this up now so you can see the battle happen. Obviously, I put that big tank in the front row, and one of the things that was kind of an advantage here is that I was able to play a monster with a silence. So with void and silenced monsters, you're going to see that it's going to be hard for them to do a lot of damage. Now, he did play 1 monster that couldn't be silenced, so that's why he's still attacking for 3 mana, which is a big thing because otherwise he wouldn't. Now, you'll see the Bizzing Kitty here being my only healer on the team and healing my front row is really what makes the dragon, work so well. Because I had the cat as the healer, I just played a triage cleanse monster here to make sure that my tank could get healed because I didn't want him to get an affliction stuck on him. Didn't apply here. I ended up cleansing cripple instead, but still was important. And as you can see, this match doesn't even really end up being that close. His guys end up just shooting damage back at themselves while not having enough life, enough damage to overcome my triage and self-healing and front row healing. So it just becomes a real beatdown. We'll go ahead and speed it up here just to watch the end of it. You see here, I'm not even going to end up losing 1 monster in this video. And this was a max level Zaku deck that just got utterly destroyed, given my deck is max level 2. Oh, I might lose him on a thorn. Nope, never mind. No more thorns. No more attacking for you, and this match is over. So see, that is how dominant the kitty can be and why the kitty is so expensive, just like Zaku. We have a Selena battle. Which one would be better to show you? We'll go with this one. We'll end it here, even though this one wasn't super competitive. But here's somebody using the magic summoner, so you can get a kind of a idea of that card being used. So he went summoners in the back. Now, one of the things here that made this just kind of easy for me, like I said, I like Selena, and I like her with teams with archers in a low mana match. I wanted the team with the low cost archers. So this is a 3, a 3, a 2, and a 3. And I'm going to buff all of them. And I'm going to control speed here because I have a slow. He has a slow too, so we're all just going to be really slow. But luckily, since he's really slow, it makes it so my archers aren't going to miss. But really, the difference here is that I played a reflect, so I'm going to be bouncing the magic damage back at those mages. And I got an early poison, which helped me out because he doesn't have any kind of cleanse on his team. So he went with the ooze up there in the front, and that ooze is going to die in the first round because he doesn't have the ability to heal. And then I have a good set of team here where even if he wasn't at 3, I could have killed him if he was at 6 because I have the Grenader here. My Grenader's my only not max card. As you can see, he's missing a couple levels. I really wish I would have just went ahead and maxed him out when I could have. So we'll wrap this up. As you can see, this is kind of the idea. You pick archers from a really good team and a set of archers, and then you buff them all with Selena, and that's how she can go ahead and win you a match. The other one here is the same kind of setup, but with water. I'll go ahead and throw it on the board. We'll watch it at like super fast speed. This was actually kind of interesting because his summoner canceled out my summoner, but this is kind of an example of somebody trying to use a 5-cost legendary summoner in a match with not enough mana to do it. He was kind of hoping that the self-heal in the cube in the front would work. He's also a little under-leveled, and so he just didn't do it. This is kind of an interesting thing that players maybe don't think to do. But this guy as a tank is kind of an interesting tank. I don't remember if you're going to see it, but if he gets missed a lot, it's kind of funny because some monsters have a hard time hitting him. I don't think he actually got missed this time. It was really just my combo here of having the fast mage with shatter and then these archers that even after being theoretically weakened were still hitting pretty hard because of the Selena, and that was just a real dominating win. All right, everybody, thank you for checking out the video. If you stuck with this one all the way to the end, you are a serious fan and a serious good help to me as a YouTube creator. So make sure you're subscribed, because if you're going to watch a 38-minute video and actually be here at the end, I hope you're subscribed to the channel. A lot of you have, so thank you very much, and have a good night. Bye.